We've got some
Hey,
fresh new
I'm
young
Luis.
talent
And
doing some
I'm
things that I know
Luis.
you haven't
And you're
heard
listening to the
before.
Content is Profit podcast. Hey guys, and welcome back to Content is Profit. Today I have, like I always say, a special one, but this really is a special one because a couple days ago we had somebody come into the studio. They recorded a podcast episode and they started kind of a little bit of, not maybe complaining, but like just talking about like why they haven't been able to do this for a couple of years. They're like, I really want to do it, but I haven't done it. And there's nothing more frustrating to me that somebody says, I really want to do that, but then they haven't done anything about it. And, you know, that's maybe one of the lessons that, you know, from home that my wife is like, you are complaining. Why don't you do something about it? So, you know, a few years back, we kind of took in the business and, really, we're going to be talking about the 15-minute content mastery checklist. How do you actually turn your daily moments into attracting your audience, like in your content? So if you're a business creator, if you're a business owner, if you're a creator, I say business creator because you can go to businesscreators.club, baby, our community. March 12th, officially, we start with a 17-day challenge. A little plug in there. But really, honestly, like, you know, a little bit of background. This person comes in, you know, she's a small business owner. The person that's interviewing her is also a small business owner. So, interviewee or podcast host is so excited that, you know, she's finally being able to come into the studio and do this consistently. We've been helping her with the support on the back end, on the creation aspect. But other than that, she's just happy that she has a framework to start working and testing things out, like we've talked about in the last few episodes. And a guest person comes in and, you know, she starts saying how frustrating sometimes the days can be because, you know, she doesn't want to live by her phone 24/7 and like updating the post and recording videos and doing all this. And I understand, like, it can be very frustrating. Sometimes we fall into that. Hence why we do a podcast and why we do multi-purposing and all that other stuff. But I kind of was like listening on the side and I was like, look, let's call her a Mary. Hey, Mary, there is a better way. And I started sharing a little bit of a story of like how we started to, you know, to create content after 3 years of failing, literally starting and stopping for months and then trying to do it again and trying to mimic the gurus. And probably, I'm guessing if you're listening to this right now, you might be in that boat now, or you've experienced something similar, right? You try maybe a blog because you read the blogs are really good for SEO and then you stop. Or maybe you start a podcast because Luis told you to start a podcast and then you stop. Or maybe you're doing organic content on your phone and, you know, you stop or you forget one day and you're like, man, like I ran out of ideas. And like all these like very painful things when it comes to, because we're stopping progress and stopping momentum in our business, even though we feel like creating content is the thing that's gonna, you know, get us out of that hole, right? And then we keep beating ourselves and we're like, man, why do we stop? And then, you know, at the end of the day, we don't create anything and we feel like we're still stuck, right? That was us. I raised my hand. It was very frustrating for a long period of time. So what I started sharing was our 45 Live story, right? And for those who don't know, you can Google Content is Profit 45 Live. I'm sure there's going to be a full episode on that. But quick recap is we tried for years to try to publish. And it wasn't until we were in a meeting, me and my brother, with 8 other business owners. And they saw the results that we were getting for people. They saw the work that we were doing for other people. But they were like, where is your content? Like, how do I know that you guys are legit if there's nothing there? I'm telling you right here, look at the presentation. The case study is like our client introduced to you. How else? But even though the content wasn't, like, because the content wasn't there, they wouldn't believe us. So that day we were like, this has to stop. We have to be present online and so on. So we did a quick audit. We're like, okay, where do we want to be? Like I guess our audience at the moment was on Facebook. Most of our community is from there. And we decided that because we didn't want to edit, so we didn't have time at the time we were working on projects on a service based. It was just me and my brother. There was no team. We needed to fast turn around. We needed to be frequent. That's the belief that's the experiment we decided to run. So we decided, okay, well, guess what? Facebook Live is a new-ish feature. Let's try it out and see what's up, because as soon as I hit record, we don't have to edit. So now the next problem was like, what am I actually going to be talking about? And we tried a few things, but ultimately, in that first version, which actually lasted 15 days, I'll tell you in just a second why, I personally started using a framework that was very simple for me to execute, right? So I always like remember this hashtag smooth operator. It comes from, obviously there's a song, but it comes from like an F1 driver, Carlos Sainz, and I grabbed that. I was like, I'm gonna use it in my mental frameworks, as in removing the friction. And what are the elements that create friction for me? At the time was like doing deep research, for example, or it was the editing side. It was trying to sit down and do a whole setup like we have here. It was all these things that prevented me from creating the content and from actually talking to a camera. So on that day, I sat down and I said, okay, my initial framework is going to be like, okay, what did I learn today? Because I was always listening to podcasts or reading books, or we were in masterminds. So what did I learn today? I'm going to share the story of that or something related to that, and then I'm going to connect it to my business. And that's what I started doing. All of a sudden, we start creating, and we start seeing these moments where, like, if we don't create, then the day goes by, and then we forget to create content, and then at the end of the day, we don't create it. So we start identifying our high energy moments, and we're like, okay, for me, that was at noon. And I just put it on my calendar for 10 days, 15 days. That was the container. Like, what's the container that I need to create? For example, this podcast, I have a container now of 20 to 30 minutes because I have an incredible session that's about to get started. So establish your container. At what time you're going to create that content? Whatever that means to you, writing, doing a video, create those margins so you can stay within them. So for me, that was at noon, right before lunch. I was like, I am going to create for 10 to 15 minutes. And for me, that creation was, let me think about something that happened today. I'm going to kind of quickly write an outline of the story. I'm going to share it on Facebook Live, and I'm going to hit publish. And that was it. And that's the thing that unlocked our publishing. And that's the thing that because of that, we started creating a little bit more frequency. We started getting feedback. We started to connect with people on Facebook, and it wasn't massive. It wasn't hundreds of people. Maybe like you'll see like 2 or 3 people there, but the video was there. You were in their feeds constantly, and all of a sudden you start connecting with people in the industry. You're trying to be proactive, right? But at the same time, you start having conversations. They go check out your profile. You start answering their questions in your videos. They start reaching out, and then all these connections end up evolving to the point that we launched the podcast with a similar framework, and now you know the story, right? 6 years later, here we are. But that's what unlocked everything for me. So going back to our friend Mary, right? I'm sharing this story, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, like this is good." I'm actually probably at the end of this episode, maybe we'll see if it's longer than 20 minutes. We put in the video in there of the actual real conversation that happens. But if not, we just send me a DM and I can send it to you. But she started having this epiphany because it's simpler than it looks, right? Like there's all these things going out, and we sometimes are guilty because like we get, I personally like equipment, so like we try to get always the best equipment. We always try to like get the tech going because something that I like, but we don't necessarily need it. We have these tools today that make it super simple. So how do we work in our message? Like, what are the stories that we share? What are the things, the frustrations that we address? What are the answers that we provide in that content? And that's what we share initially to remove that friction and get going. And again, if you're already publishing consistent, you have a team, awesome. Maybe this is like a support content that you do on lives or something like low friction. But if you are that person that might not have a team, that is overwhelmed with maybe operations in your business, trying to figure out how to sell, and you still believe that content is the way, I think this is a very easy framework or simple framework to follow every single day, right? So I'm going to go through a couple of things, right? Like, honestly, why this thing works. There's a few reasons, specifically 3 that we're going to be talking about, right? One is low friction, obviously low friction, but low pressure. As in the sense of when we try to edit, we always have this pressure of like, how do we capture the perfect moment, right? How do we, I want to grab this. And that looks in different ways. Maybe you're putting some music, maybe you're putting, some zoom ins, or like your editor goes crazy. I'm like, whoa, there's a little pressure on that because I'm delivering live, and that's what's that way it goes out. So now we only have to focus on one, which is our messaging. How do we get it right? It creates consistency. Because it's low friction, now you are more propense to go and execute. So it just takes a couple minutes every single day. And what happens is like now you have that frequency and you start stacking wins on publishing, making everything else a lot easier. Right? You get confidence. You continue to work on your projects with a little bit higher energy and so on. But instead, if you are like, okay, I'm going to publish this thing, and then you don't do it, then we beat ourselves down and we complete the opposite. So I want you to be high energy. I want you to create that consistency for those wins. And obviously, it sparks conversations because people are going to be seeing your content. There might be a like. There might be a little comment in there. For the people that like and comment, go reach out to them. Hey, thank you so much for liking and commenting on my content. Like, what resonated? Start learning a little bit more about that. Ask some questions like what do you enjoy about it? What attracted you to click? What attracted you to watch? And you're gonna find out very interesting things. Quick list of overcoming common hurdles, right? On removing the friction, like I mentioned before, schedule it. Put a time on your calendar and stick to that. I would recommend going to a time where you feel high energy, right? So for me, that was at noon, right before lunch, and then because after lunch, I pass out in a nap, right? Obviously, embrace imperfection. It's not going to be perfect, but guess what? You're going to get better every single time. Find your anchor. This is related to your high energy moment. It's like, what is something in the day that I can use as an anchor? So, for me was maybe there was a moment in the afternoon that you go for a walk. Every time you go for a walk, that's your cue to start your content, for example. Like, what is that anchor that's going to trigger creation, right? And at the end of the day, make it fun, right? I remember having my Huskies with me most of the time, and when I switched from noon to the afternoon on like season 3, every time I would walk them, I would show them, and it was fun, and people were like relating, and they liked the Huskies, and it became almost like this visual hook, and so on. So, my challenge to you is start going live today. You don't have to do 45 days. Try maybe 5 days. Or if not, join us in businesscreator.club or the Facebook group Content is Profit, where at May 12th, we're going to start a 17-day challenge, and we might or might not do something like this. But I hope this was useful. Little rant in there. This was like super useful for us, and he unlocked publishing. And then obviously we've tried many other methods, but I hope it helps you. So if you're listening to this today and you post a live video, please tag me at Luis That Creates on Instagram or on Facebook. Find me, Luis Camejo, and I will be so excited to see that video. Send me a DM, be like, Luis, here's my video, and I would like to see it and welcome you to the publishing family. Awesome. With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning into Content is Profit, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Okay, actually, we're not going away. Here's a quick checklist. As I ended the episode, whatever. But I was going through the checklist, and I'm like, okay, if people want to download it, obviously it's going to be right below. There's going to be a link right there. At the moment of this recording, I don't know what the domain is. It could be like getyourchecklist.com or, 45livechecklist.com. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be right there. Or bistros.co/checklist. Anyways. But I'm also going to give it to you here. If you're listening right now, you might be driving and you can't download anything. Totally okay. I'm going to go through the checklist, and I'm going to go through some of these elements because this is so important for a lot of people. I've seen, and I'm so frustrated because I've seen so many people kind of like trying to do this, content game, and they stop because there might be 1,000 gurus saying one thing, then 1,000 others saying, hey, you need to hire an editing team or you have to do this remote team. There's so much overwhelm, and I promise you, this will get you further and faster and identify your ideal content type when you start creating this way to do that. So if you're a person that likes video, do it with video. If you're a person that likes writing, do it with writing. If you're a person that likes only audio, do it with audio. Look at it under those lenses, all right? So here, the checklist works with every type of content, and then I will honestly would love for you to let me know. And the reason I came back is because literally I started a session in the other room and the guys had the same problem. So I'm like, okay, you know what? We're going to have to tackle this right off the bat. So the checklist, here we go. Number one, there's gonna be a ton of this, and we're gonna go through it super fast. And if you're listening on Snipped or something, make sure that you hit the snip and you create kind of like a little summary of it. But again, the downloadable is gonna be right below. But number one is identify your high energy moment. You could not imagine how many times we saw people when we did the challenge with 100 people that at 11 p.m. everybody was submitting their videos. So choose your high energy moment. That might be in the morning. That might be early in the afternoon. Who knows? Everybody's different. For me, for a long time, was noon, like I mentioned before, and then I switched to 7 p.m. because of my anchor, because I was walking my dogs, right? I'll say put it on your calendar. Put in 10 minutes to 15 minutes and break it down. First, like 5 minutes, figure out, or not even 5 minutes. First, like 2 minutes, figure out like what the story that you're going to share and what's the thing that you learn, and then get on creating. You don't need to edit. You don't need to do anything. So you have a ton of minutes to do that. And some people are like, can I talk for like 2 minutes about this? I promise you, you're going to be able to talk for more than 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Our older brother, first video, he's like, dude, I don't know if I have 5 minutes to do this. And he ended up talking for like 20 minutes. So we have to work on the timing, but it is possible. And again, this is with the frame of video, but same thing with writing. Write a couple sentences and see where it takes you, right? And obviously, like we said before, choose a consistent time that aligns with your peak energy, right? Choose a time that you might not have meetings in there. What's a time that you're always available to do this kind of stuff? Set up a quick environment. If you are doing with mobile, if you're doing with your phone, if you're doing with this kind of stuff, it's going to be super simple. The fact that, you can... It's going to be so easy because you can be anywhere. But if you need like a place to write or you need a place to record, is it your office? Is it your living room? Prepare your recording device. If you have a camera like we do here, just make sure that it's always, connected. You don't need a charge batteries. Like, what's the frictionless way that we can do this? I recommend use your phone. Let's see. Create your daily insight, capture your daily insight, reflect. Okay, so this is more on the messaging side, right? And what's a meaningful moment of your day? So a lot of people is like, okay, what's the messaging? Like, what is the thing that I'm gonna say? And like I said, I repeat it again. What is something that happened to you today, or that you lived through today, or that you learned today? And then describe that scene. So like, kind of like how I did at the beginning of the episode with the story with Mary, right? We're not expert storytellers. As we get better over time. But don't be scared to kind of share that story and start there. I put this after a little bit with the conversation with Mary because I think some people need some structure. Like for me, it was really simple because we've tried it for many years. I had a time to kind of like just share the story, and it comes easier for me. And I know that might be something that I can get better at to get to the point faster, 100%. But maybe during that thinking process, just put like a little draft of like, what are some key moments that you want to highlight in the story? And that might be helpful, right? With podcast episodes lately, that's what I've been doing. Make sure you have a relevant call to action, right, at the end of it. So my initial, if you don't have like a page or an offer, we have this phrase, fastest path to cash. So a lot of people are like, well, should I put the lead magnet? Should I put the newsletter? Should I put the website for people to do that? That's, to me, that's more steps. We saw the most success in our specific execution when we invited people to have a conversation and learn about their business and kind of like what they were doing content-wise, right? So encourage people to connect with you. They're on social to connect with other people. So that's a low-friction moment. And I invite everybody to send them a DM and go from there. Post immediately. So if you're doing live, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like as soon as you're recording, that goes live. I'll say start with one platform, whether that's Facebook, Instagram. If you're writing LinkedIn, you can do video on LinkedIn too. On my second edition, like I mentioned this on to Mary, was I also like downloaded that video afterwards. I allocated like 5 minutes and then I re-uploaded it on LinkedIn to start testing it out. If you see that takes you a lot of time, or remove it. Right, like at the end of the day, it's like you pick one platform and go from there. That's just like season 2 type material, right? Engagement with your audience, right? So this is probably the part with a lot of people maybe have more friction because they seem like the thing they have to be on their phone 24/7. But go back. If you post it in the morning, go back to your platform at night and see, have somebody liked it, have somebody comment on it, right? And then if there's one person or two people, thank them. That's how we landed our first big contract. Was somebody that watched a few of the videos, and then in one he commented, I commented back, we connected, and then 2 conversations later we ended up at their house and in an event, and then from there we got the deal. So again, you never know who's going to be watching. We call them the silent watchers. If you are, I was not aware of this because maybe I'm a boy, but maybe some guys have the same problem. But this came to me because the person that does our taxes, she's amazing. She works in an industry as well that you have to be kind of well dressed, and there's like a standard, right? So for me, I'm always on hoodies or t-shirts. I'm okay with that. But if you're a person that is in an industry that might be, might need getting ready, for her, that was her friction point, right? For her, that was like, oh man, I need to look a certain standard because of my industry. All right, perfect. What are the steps that you can take beforehand so the next day you're ready? So is it getting our outfit ready? Is it recording maybe a few of this in one day and then you just distributed them? There's different ways that we can hack this. So start thinking about what are the elements that cause friction. If dressing and getting ready is one of them, how can we get ahead of the curve the day before, right? Above everything, maintain your consistency, right? We committed to 45 days. First time, 15 days. We got business. We got busy. We stopped. I mean, it worked. But then the second day, we fully did all 45 days. And it was even better. We ended up getting 2 more customers for our service, and we worked on our messaging, and it did a lot better that day. So on our side, we established a tracking system. Go back to your analytics maybe once a week and check, what's an outlier. Find those videos that maybe did better and save those. Save the titles, save the messaging, save the transcriptions, because maybe that's a longer episode that you can do. Maybe you can do that topic again, right? It proved that it resonated with those people. And that goes into, obviously, review, optimize, and analyze which ones did better, which ones drove more conversations, and go from there. Finally, if we are on social media, if we're creating for social media, make sure that you connect with the people that are there, right? So LinkedIn, your post might be share somebody, and there might be somebody else that is not your connection. Connect with them. Send them a quick DM. Be like, hey, I saw that you enjoyed this content. Thank you so much. I've said it 20 times, but I'll say it again. Conversations is what's going to drive, the success of this. It's going to allow you to connect with a lot of people. Is what the decision makers are going to be doing, right? So make sure to do that. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Again, second goodbye over here. I was like, there's no way this person is saying the same thing that I was just talking on the thing. So those are a few steps that you can take. Let me know. Make it your own. If you want a little bit more of a structure thing, let me know. And we don't have the 45 live challenge running right now, but I have the checklist and the assets. We have a bingo card that makes it super fun. Send me a DM at BizBrosCo if you're not part of the community. Go to businesscreator.club. Right now, still $1. Which is super exciting. After May 12th, that's going to change. That's lifetime access, $1 a month. So if you're not happy, we'll return your money back. And ask me for the checklist, and I'm happy to send it to you. With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning to the Content is Profit podcast, and we'll see you later. Take care.